Hey folks, and welcome to another edition of your NASCAR News video blog. Today we'll be looking at this past weekend's race in Pocono, some of the things that are going to be developing over the week, and then look ahead to this upcoming week's race at Michigan. So go back to Pocono. Teams were up there for about 5 days testing on the newly repaved track. Teams essentially had to throw their old notebooks away and start over. The new pavement led to a lot higher speeds than ever seen at Pocono. The majority of drivers in qualifying shattered the track record, which also required teams to kind of adjust how they set up their cars and approach this weekend's race. One of the drivers who emerged as being one of the best throughout those 5 days was Joe Gibbs Racing's Joey Logano showed speed all week long, was able to back it up with his first pole of the year, and once got in the race, he was one of the most dominant cars of the day. He led 49 of the 160 laps en route to his first victory of the season. It was also his first win since winning in 2009 up in New Hampshire in the rain-shortened race to score his first Sprint Cup Series victory. Lots of rumors going around about Logano. This weekend was a huge weekend for him, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Some of the biggest storylines that emerged throughout Sunday's race initially was pit road timing lines. Usually something that is a side note or an inconvenience for some drivers. Sunday we saw 22 drivers hit with speeding penalties by NASCAR. A lot of those in the first half of the race. Even drivers like Jimmy Johnson were getting nabbed multiple times on their pit stops. When they came in, they get hit for speeding. When they come back in to serve their penalty, they get hit for speeding again, have to do a stop and go. Lots of issues and confusion in the media with fans and in the cockpits of the cars about what was wrong. Drivers were saying their track was where they thought it would be, where it should be for pit road speed, but they were still getting hit with speeding. Some people were calling on NASCAR to stop the race and check the timing lines, but I didn't agree with that at the time. I mean, this is race conditions. You have to adjust, and that's what the drivers did. They eventually had to back down their speeds, slower than normal coming down pit road, and after following the race, NASCAR's Robin Pemberton remained confident in their equipment. They were confident that there was no failures with the timing lines. Just the fact that because of the repave and the reconfiguration of pit road, more timing lines had been added. They were in different spots than they were in previous years, and either crew chiefs and drivers were unprepared for that, or they just basically didn't do their homework. So a lot of confusion about that early in the race, but that seemed to work itself out towards the end of the event. Dale Earnhardt Jr. emerged as one of the strongest cars all race long. For a long time during the race, it looked like Jr. was finally going to be able to snap that winless streak. It dates back to 2008 in Michigan. He led 36 of the 160 laps and looked like he was the car to beat in the late going. However, as these races typically do, fuel mileage came into play late in the race. Drivers were being told they were 3 or 4 laps short, and at a place as large as Pocono, you don't even want to be 1 lap short because it is so long. You risk losing so much by running out of gas. So late in the race, Junior under caution came in. Crew Chief Steve Letarte called him in. They topped off fuel and restarted about 16th. While this looked like Earnhardt was going to be in the catbird seat, as the leaders were eventually going to have to pit late in the race, NASCAR decided that they needed to clean the track a little better, extended the caution by about 2 laps, and that really hurt Earnhardt Jr. and the other drivers that did come to pit road, because those extra caution laps allowed guys like Joey Logano and Mark Martin to stretch that fuel mileage enough to where they were going to make it to the end now. Unfortunately, Junior finished 8th. You could see in his post-race interview the frustration, the disappointment in once again not finding victory lane. This team has been arguably the most consistent and one of the best all season long. and just not being able to find victory lane. Is you can see the want in their face and the disappointment when they don't get there. A lot of drivers would have killed for an 8th place finish, but it's a tough pill to swallow for Earnhardt Jr. following the day he had. While he was trying to work his way back up through the field late in the race, Joey Logano, pole sitter Joey Logano, and veteran Mark Martin, who started on the outside of the front row, were battling for the win. This is a battle that will be long remembered in NASCAR. You got the seasoned veteran against the young and hungry driver. You got the teacher versus the apprentice. It's Mark Martin versus Joey Logano. When Joey Logano was a kid, Mark Martin was one of his biggest advocates. When he was planning to leave Roush Racing, he is reported that he suggested to team owner Jack Roush to keep an eye on Joey Logano, and that would be his pick. Unfortunately, Joey had some years to grow up into the sport and make his way into the Sprint Cup Series. There have been a lot of questions about Joey Logano circulating, whether his ride at Joe Gibbs Racing is secure, whether he has lived up to his potential. But Sunday seemed to show that he can still get the job done, and victories can come. And the most important thing, I think, that we can look at from Sunday's race and Joey's victory is how he did it. Mark Martin's a driver that very, very, very rarely makes mistakes. The last time I can think of Mark Martin making a mistake was during a Busch Grand National race where he pulled into pit road one lap too early at the end of the race under caution and lost the race. That was in the early to mid 90s, so that's a long time span between mistakes by Mark Martin. But Mark had a pretty good lead on Joey. Joey was forcing Joey to overdrive his car, make mistakes. But coming through turn 3 with only a handful of laps to go, Mark Martin made a mistake and bobbled a little bit. That allowed Joey to close down the front stretch. Joey drove hard into turn 1 right on Mark's back bumper and forced Mark Martin to make yet another mistake. When he did, he capitalized and drove away for the win. A lot of people were questioning whether or not Joey should have made that move, whether it was the bump and run, whether he shoved him out of the way. That's what you call racing hard for the win. We saw Jeremy Mayfield do it to Dale Earnhardt at Pocono one year. We've seen numerous drivers do it. That's what you have to do to win these races. It's so hard to pass, and it's so hard to win Sprint Cup Series races. You have to do what you have to do to get it, and I don't see anything wrong with what Joey did. Now, what this win does for Joey Logano is it goes a long way in the rumor mill. Joey was asked in Victory Lane what this win means to him, with all those rumors circulating about his future at Joe Gibbs Racing and his future in the Sprint Cup Series, and he said he hopes this win just shuts them all up. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but it does go a long way to secure his ride in the future for Joey Logano. Now, on the flip side of that, Kurt Busch, who was one of the biggest names to potentially replace Logano or move into a 4th ride at Joe Gibbs Racing, had to sit out this weekend's race at Pocono Raceway after being suspended for comments made to Bob Pockrass in Dover and violating his probation. NASCAR sat him out for this weekend's race, and team owner James Finch put David Rudiman in the car, the number 51 car. Rudiman had a solid day. I think they finished the race complete without a torn-up race car, and it was a realization for Kurt Busch that, hey, you've essentially taken yourself out of the running for quality rides like Joe Gibbs Racing and Richard Childress, because there's other drivers out there who are they're marketable, they're talented, and they don't have a history of issues with media members, with other drivers. So Kurt Busch kind of got an awakening this weekend. On Tuesday afternoon, James Finch, team owner James Finch, plans to have a, quote, come to meet Jesus meeting with Kurt Busch. It's uncertain what the future is going to be between those two, whether Busch will be back in the car. He is on the entry list for this weekend's race, but Finch indicated it is a week-to-week kind of basis for he and Kurt Busch. If Busch continues to wreck race cars, make mistakes, and is unable to control his emotions and his temper, look for somebody else to climb back into the 51. Some Rudiments a possibility. Some of the other names that have also been rumored in that ride are people like Brian Vickers. There's a whole host of talent out there that James Finch can tab to drive that car. So it'll be interesting to see how Kurt Busch handles his week away. Be interesting to see what comes of this come to Jesus meeting with James Finch, and how that pair moves forward, and what this really means for Kurt Busch's future in the Sprint Cup Series. I think this was an awakening to him, or at least it should be, that despite the fact that you're a former Sprint Cup Series champion, you know, multiple race wins, you need to keep yourself in line, because the way that he's been acting, it turns away team owners, it turns away sponsors, and you're going to find yourself on a very small island very quickly. So it looks like Busch has some self-searching to do, and hopefully this weekend that's what he did, and he can get refocused back into the Sprint Cup Series, because the Sprint Cup Series needs people like Kurt Busch. He just needs to be in check. He needs to make sure that he keeps his emotions in line and doesn't overstep his boundaries. But he's a heck of a race car driver. He's extremely talented, and he can go out there and win races. It's just all the other stuff that he needs to work on. But he's running out of chances, it seems like. So we'll keep an eye on that. Probably have an update for you next week in next week's video blog. This weekend, we are heading to Michigan International Speedway, another newly repaved racetrack. If you thought speeds in Pocono were fast, speeds at Michigan are even faster, it seems like. A lot of testing went on up there. Goodyear testing, just testing the surface and everything. And all the reports from the drivers who tested was that speeds are incredibly high entering the corners and down the straightaway. This week, NASCAR has allowed teams Thursday to go up there and test again prior to the normal practice and qualifying schedule for the weekend. So it'd be interesting to see what comes of this weekend's race in Michigan. In the backyard of Ford, I expect them to show up hard and heavy. People like Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, they have consistently been among the fastest. Carl Edwards, he needs to get his season kind of kick-started. He struggled as well in Pocono. He started strong, but he had issues earlier in the race when Denny Hamlin dive bombed turn one early. I think it was on lap 1. Cut Edwards' tire, and it was just a long haul back to an 11th place finish for him. So I see Michigan as a place that he can succeed and possibly go out there and contend for a win and get his season back on track. So look for guys like Brad Keselowski to be strong. This is Keselowski's home track. He had a lackluster day, to say the least, at Pocono with an 18th place finish. But I think he is really hyped to go up there. I think he was really excited about testing up there, and I look for him to be among some of the stronger cars there. So thanks again for watching. As always, I encourage your comments, your critiques, and thanks for watching. And we'll see you next week. Thanks.